Got a Dynaco PAT4A Preamp in for mods. These were a great preamp, but the problem is they just did not have enough inputs. Well, they had lots of inputs, but 3 of them were low level, 2 of them are useless. You got a turntable, you got a tape head, you got a special. These are all inputs that go through the phono preamp for their low level sources. We need high level sources, so we're going to mod this one and make it more useful. Here I have a Dynaco preamplifier. This one apparently has been restored. Well, they've changed the power plug on it. Put a computer type power cord on. Let's see what other type of restoration has been done. I'm told this unit works. Of course, it hasn't been plugged in yet. Before plugging in anything, I want to actually check to make sure that it is in a safe working order before it's plugged in. So that requires an inspection. And when I inspect it, I will see exactly what was done to it. Is the restoration, was it a total cap job? Was it just a power cord? I guess we'll find out pretty soon. Okay, here's the unit itself. Well, it certainly is not a full restore. What has been done on this, from what I can see from here, is the 3-part main filter cap has been replaced with 3 electrolytics mounted around the edges of it, and the internal has been disconnected. We can measure this internal cap and see whether that was even necessary. We'll check it for ESR and we'll check it for capacity and see whether that was even necessary. I don't see anything else that's been done on this unit other than 3 capacitors replaced and a power plug added. The other capacitors here all look to be original. These all look to be original caps that are on here. I don't see any soldering that has been touched up, so I don't think any other work has been done. I don't even see any contact cleaner on the switches. The switches are all dry. If we look back here, normally when you clean these with something like deoxit or Neutral, you're going to have a residue, right? And there's no indication that the controls have been cleaned. We'll be checking this out. I'd like to check the ESR on these caps first. We'll just make sure that they're discharged and just measure the ESR and see how the original cap looked. This was sold as a totally restored unit. I wouldn't call this a total restoration. I would call it a partial restoration, but let's just see how the original ESR looks. So 0.1, this one might be open, that side is open, and 1.5. So this capacitor definitely needed to be replaced. And that's probably all that was ever wrong with this, was this one filter went bad. If we put the capacitor meter on here, you see, if I did a restoration like that, if I repaired this unit and just replaced the main capacitor and called it a restoration, I'd have every troll out there telling me it's not a full restore. So I'm going by the same measurement. It's not a full restore, even though it is restored. Microfarads. Let's just see what the microfarads register here. 1209 microfarads. 1660 microfarads, and this one here is like 4.5. What is the original value on this? Looks like it's an 80 and 2 700. So the 2 700s are measuring much higher than that, and this one here is an 80, and the 80 side is open. But that's okay because the caps have been replaced. It's just the original has been left in the cabinet. It wasn't removed. It was just the wires were cut off and brought over to the replacement caps and the resistor divider network. So we'll plug this in and we'll see how it sounds. First things first, I'll plug the input into the one marked special, whatever that special means, and we'll turn on the power. Got my power amp on here. So that special is that's a phono input. Okay, and also the tape head will be a preamped input. I think I might be rewiring this here to give more auxiliary inputs. Tape head will also be. So that's another one going through the preamp. It's a low level input. Over here we've got our tape, amp, tuner, and spare. So tape, amp. So we switch this over to tape. There we go. Control needs to be clean. I heard it cut in and out there. Working. So the way these are wired, the tape input and the tape monitor is the same, right? So when you're recording, or when you've got it set, the record out will be whatever is feeding out to it, except for the tape, of course. It'll be the tuner or the spare going out the tape output. Of course, no volume control on that, right? So you got two outputs that can be routed to the tape. Switch needs to be cleaned. Not a restoration with a switch pad like that. So basically, what it has, it sits right now. The tuner and the spare input are the two auxiliary inputs. Tape will also work as an input, but of course the tape is also on the tape monitor. It's in a double position because only the tuner and the spare get sent to the recording output. It has three inputs going through the phono preamp: tape head, special, and phono. And well, these days that's just something that's not required. So I think what I'll be doing on this one is I'm going to rewire the switch to provide a second tape input, and the special will also be a line level input. There's only one that's really needed for phono, and that's the phono input. The others, we don't need it as a preamp input. But the nice thing about these units is it's really easy to rewire because we have our inputs on the back here. We can just take our inputs from the sources here and just wire them directly to the switch in the positions that we want to have auxiliary inputs. So it's really easy to do that. So we're going to do that. That will be the project on this video, to turn this little Dynaco preamp into something a little more useful by today's standards, because we definitely need more than two inputs. Definitely. And we don't need more than one phono input. And I'll clean all the controls, of course. These units here, okay, were always nice. They always had a nice sound. Like all of them, though, the volume tends to, when you're driving it into an amp that's got lots of gain, they're not quite linear in the lower part of the scale. Like the left channel's kicking in before the right. That control needs to be cleaned. Actually, all the controls could use cleaning. Get the deox at D5. Give these a shot of cleaner while I'm at it. Oh, what's going on? The top to my deoxit has come off. Loudness doesn't appear to do anything either. Oh yeah, the lower volume it does. That's how the loudness control is supposed to work, right? At lower volumes, it'll boost the bass and treble a bit. But as you increase the volume, it has less effect. That's how volume or loudness are supposed to work. You've got a mono switch on here for left channel only, right channel only, or mix both together and then back to stereo. Selectable high filter, 15, 10, and 7. I don't know why anybody would want that, but it has it. We're going to clean the input switch. Yeah, that's sounding good. So I guess we'll get the soldering iron heated up and we'll rewire the switch to provide 2 more auxiliary inputs, because that's what's needed these days. Multiple inputs for line level devices. and one phono input is more than enough. So let's proceed and mod this the way it should have been designed in the first place. Lots of auxiliary inputs. Oh, and by the way, this is a PAT4, which has been rated as one of the highest quality preamps ever produced. I kid you not. Sonically, these are fantastic. That's why they go for the kind of money they go for, which can be stupid money. It is one of the few preamps out there that is almost sonically perfect, as the reviewers have all said. When they've done A/B comparison, either through the preamp, through any of the line inputs, or direct to the amplifier, there hasn't been any sonic change in the sound. So sonically, these are very accurate and very sought after. Not bad for a unit that was built in 1969. Got another input on the front and an output. This is for headphones. This one doesn't have the spring return tape. So the early ones, it was a spring return, so you had to hold the monitor button, and then when you released it, it reverted back to line. That was kind of a stupid feature that some of the early ones had, because they felt customers were too stupid to return it to the off position and then would return the unit under warranty for no sound, and all they had was the tape monitor switch was in the on position, believe it or not. Now to mod a unit like this, and I know this is probably gonna tick somebody off, but I don't give a damn. I really don't care if I ruffle someone's feathers, because the owner of this unit doesn't care whether it has a phono preamp in it or not. The owner of this unit wants more line level inputs because they have a bunch of devices that they want to plug into it, more than what the unit has now. If we look at the switch, we'll see that now this is the same for the left and the right channel. This is the schematic, by the way. It's broken down into, there's 8 transistors, 4 per channel, but this is the preamp and the RIAA equalization for the phono section, and this is the preamp for the output. This is your tone amp and your actual preamplifier self-control amp. If we look here, we've got the here's the outputs. The outputs come here. This is another switch over here. These are the high cut filters. That's the switch over on the right. The output from the preamp comes out. I don't know if I've got a highlighter hanging around here somewhere that I can draw this with a highlighter if I've got one. There's one around here somewhere, but anyway, the output comes out, goes down into the switch, which will select what type of filter you need to use or you want to use. This is the ground out here. Here's our outputs. Output number 2 goes through the output jack, so that it'll cut it off. Comes off of the switch. Lug 8 on front wafer. So there's a front and a rear wafer. This is the switch here that we're looking at. Our filter, high filter switch. Signal comes out of the amplifier. I think it's this one. I was looking at it here. The inputs here from the balance control. From our loudness controls back here. Tape monitor. One's for the right channel, one's for the left channel. We're only looking at one channel here. But here's our inputs. This would be the output. Output here comes down, and okay, there's lug 8. That's not connected to anything. So lug 8 here is connected from the front wafer. There's actually a physical connection that actually connects across there as well. That was what was missing from the schematic. So our signal comes out, and it goes in to the switch. And when the switch is bypassed, it's in the bypass position, will come out and feed the signal to the output right there. That's our signal coming out. And then there's the other one for the right channel. You see, this is for right channel here. This is the left channel, and this one's the right channel on this side here. It tells you which lug it goes to on the rear wafer. This is the rear wafer of that switch in the front. So the other channel is identical to this. This is the preamp, and this is our input. So if we look at our input, we will notice that there's a spare input, which goes to lug 11, the tape input, and the tuner input. The tape input also goes down to the monitor switch here, which allows you to switch it in. When the switch is in one of the other positions, it will allow you to switch in the tape monitor. But in the tape position, it's just going to play the tape. But all three of these switches come through, and they output out of pin number 1. Pin number 1 goes along here. That's the tape output, and it also goes to, on the front side here, output pin number 2, which goes into, or this is the input from the preamp here. Pin number 5 is the output, so the signal goes that way. And it'll also go into the amplifier by means of this input jack, which comes off the pin number 12. So this is the output. The signal goes this way and down here into the monitor switch when it's in normal mode. This is the tape side here. Comes through here, into here, down through there, through the low filter, and into stereo switching, loudness control, and ends up here at the volume control. From here, it goes in through the balance and into the input of the amplifier. So there's your signal going in to the preamp. This is important that we study this, because the tape head and phono and special inputs all come in through here. Now you'll notice on here you've got the phono low, you've got the phono ceramic, and the phono high, and that goes through this resistor network, which is what these are right here. These are the matching networks for ceramic, phono high, and phono low. Phono low is the one that connects into the switch. So all three of them go in. You'll notice that they come out of pin number 5 right here. Pin number 5 goes into the phono preamp right there. It goes through the preamp circuit. And it comes out here. Pin number 5 on the amplifier board. So it goes in number 1 and it comes back out number 5. So basically what we need to do is we need to just bypass this circuit completely, because I don't want this circuit. I don't want this circuit at all on there. The other part of the switch over here is for switching the different RIAA levels for depending on whether it's phono or a tape head. And as you can see, one's grounded, and then there's only 2 and 3, depending on whether it's in phono or tape head mode. So if we bypass this circuit here by basically disconnecting pin number 1 and pin number 5 and just putting the wires together, then the 3 inputs, special, tape head, and phono, will become 3 more line inputs. So this is all we need to do. We just need to take the wire off from pin 1, the wire off from pin 5, and wire them together. So it's just a simple matter of unsoldering these wires and putting them together, both of these two. And that will make this input line level for everything, including the phono inputs. Now it'll defeat the phono stage. So to reconnect the phono stage, I can run a wire from the phono into number 1 and then coming back from number 5 to go to where the number 1 wire, where the phono wire goes. That way we can retain the phono input on the switch here, maintaining line level on the rest. So we're going to take the output here and take it into where the phono would normally go, so that it's going to go through here. The phono is going to go through this circuit and then return to the switch. That's what we're going to do. So that way I can keep the phono preamp, but keep the tape head and special as line inputs. You follow me? You follow the schematic? I hope you follow the schematic. Anyway, let's do that right now. So I'm going to do this by removing the wire that's going to number 1. Get untangled here first. Remove this wire from number 1. And we're going to remove the wire that's going to number 5 over here off the switch. Looks like somebody actually bent that around, so that's good. We're going to cut it just because I don't want to damage the switch. So we'll cut that one from there. I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to put it onto the switch right there. I'm going to do the same for the other channel. That will bypass the preamp completely for everything, and then we need to put the preamp back on for the phono. So we'll just solder this wire on here. That's got the left channel done. Do the same thing for the right channel, or vice versa, whichever one they are. Looks like this one's not soldered quite as well as the other one, but we will cut it anyway, just to save putting any stress on the switch that we don't need to. Clear that wire up. And we'll take this wire that we removed, and we'll put it over to here, like this. Okay, all inputs now, they're all line input. We can check that out and make sure that everything's working as it should. So let's reconnect and we'll test all the inputs. They'll all be line inputs now. So right now we're in the tape input. I'll move over to tape head. And now we'll switch this to tape head. Same. Move it to special. Plug it into the right one, right? And then we'll move it over to low input for the phono. Same thing, right? Tape head. This was the tape head one. obviously the high input and the ceramic input are going to sound funny because it's going to go through the pad back here. So that's the high input, and then the ceramic is going to be even more of a pad. And the music, of course, has ended. I'm going to wait for the song to start, but it'll even be lower because the ceramic is an even higher input. That's almost ceramic is almost a line level input. Anyway, so now we need to restore the low level phono, which is what we're on now, right? So now we need to restore that as a phono input, because now, of course, everything's a line input. But go back to special. Special is the same level as tape head. They're just going through the switch. And then of course the other one is tape amp over here. Now we also need to remove pin 7 and pin 8 down here. This is the equalizing circuit for the tape head and the special input. We want to break this because we don't want the high frequency equalization. We do want it for the phono input, which is 6, but we don't want it for the other 2. So we're going to remove 7 and 8 as well. We just have to disconnect these wires right here off of the main unit itself. So let's just do that. And this will bring the high frequency response up. We can actually, I can show you guys doing it too. I can touch them just so you can hear the difference it makes. So there's 8 and there's 7. So I'll turn it on and we'll listen to the difference it makes. Okay, so this one's the tape head. I think it's this one. Hear the difference? And I move over to the special input. That's 8. So that's this other one here. 7 does nothing. 8. So we need to remove 7 and 8 from both the boards. That way these are converted into a full proper line input. So let's remove 7 and 8 from this one. And I'll just leave these wires taped up because that way they can, if I ever want to return this thing to stock for any reason, it could be. But I can't really see any reason for doing that. So there's 7 and there's 8 removed. So we'll just tape these wires up. Next, I'm going to rewire the phono input, which is the input pin number 1 on both of the boards here, and we'll return the pin number 5, which is the output. We'll return that back to the switch. So to do that, I just need to disconnect the wire coming off of the phono input, which is, in this case, it's the green wire for one channel, and it's the red wire for the other, which comes down to the switch down here. We'll just cut that one off and bring that one over and put it onto the preamp directly, and return the preamp wire back to the switch where we remove it from. So there's the green wire off right there. There's hopefully enough wire that I can just unwind it and take it over to the other terminal where I need to solder it down to. I can't believe that they did not use shielded wire, you know, in something like this. That's handling audio signals. You know, but it's in a metal chassis, so that's probably one of the reasons why they didn't think it was necessary. Take the green wire over and put put that over to number 1 terminal over here on the back of the board, or through the board. And then I'll hook up a turntable to this as well, so you guys can hear that it is going to still work properly for a turntable. So pin number 1 is, well, I guess I can tack it right on top here, like the other one was right there. Just increase the value of this thing doing this, by the way. Some may disagree, but I think a unit that's got more inputs on it is going to be more valuable too, just because it's more useful. Most people have more than just 2 or 3 inputs, and now it can be used with 5 line inputs and 1 phono. And this wire here, I may have to just replace this one because it may not be long enough. In fact, I don't think it's going to be long enough to reach down to the switch, so we'll just get another wire and replace that. Fortunately for me, I have lots of wires that I can use. Remove number 5. And reconnect the new wire. And then we'll do the same for the other channel, and then I'll grab a turntable and we'll put a record on and make sure everything's working before I close this one up and send it on its way, as they say. Okay, that's done. Let's do the other channel as well. In this case, it was the red wire coming into the switch down here. You have to be relatively careful when I move these wires because I don't want to put any undue stress on the switch itself. So I'm kind of carefully trying to unravel these wires. And that wire hopefully is going to be long enough, or otherwise I'll have to replace it too. And untangle it again back here. Excellent. Okay, it should be long enough to reach around here and tack down on the circuit board on number 1 terminal. Okay, this unit should be ready for testing. Let me go grab a turntable. Okay, got a turntable hooked up. I'm in phono mode. Magnetic cartridge turntable. Oh, my cell phone in my pocket. Yeah. Cell phone across the room still picking up on the preamp. Hold on a sec. Dust on the needle. Sounds pretty good. That balance control is still kind of funny on the one side, one end of it. Channel, right channel, and mono. Okay, so that works. Let's get rid of the turntable. We'll go over the circuit, exactly what I did for those of you that have fallen behind and really want to know exactly what I did for all these great mods for this great preamp. Because this is a mod that everybody should be doing to these if you want more versatility out of them. Sure, if you want to plug a tape head in without any preamp on your tape deck, then yeah, you need to go through the preamp on here, but I don't know too many people that are going to be plugging a raw tape head into a preamp, because tape recorders basically have a playback amplifier. That's what the whole point of a tape deck is, right? So those other inputs were, in my opinion, totally useless and uncalled for and should never have been there. Well, in 1969 we had tape recorders without, or tape players without preamps, but 2022, I don't think too many people are going to have a tape deck that just has a tape head output. But again, you could leave those ones active if you wanted to, but I think with what I've done here, I've created a much more versatile unit. So before I close off, I'll show you what I did. Okay, so first things first. I bypassed the preamp by putting these two wires together. Or basically I just jumpered a wire on the switch from terminal number 5 over to terminal number 2. That bypassed the preamp. Then I took the phono input, which went to this pin here, was pin number 8 on the switch, and I moved that one over to pin number 1. I then put the wire from pin number 5 back over to pin number 8, so that the phono signals broke it here, goes into the preamp, comes back out of the preamp, goes back into position number 6, so that the phono position still has a preamp on it. The other two positions on the switch also had equalization, and we need the equalization for the phono, but we don't want the equalization for the tape head input and the special input, because we are now using that as a line input and we don't want any type of high frequency roll off. We just want them to act as a line input. So to do that, we disconnected pin 7 and pin 8 right here. We just broke those two so that they are no longer, because what it does on the switch here on those two positions, it just provides this connection to ground, right? It's grounding them out, which puts that circuit in, which changes the frequency response. Actually coming up here on pin number 4, because you'll see it goes in through the preamp as well. This part of the circuit is operational for the phono preamp, and also de-emphasized over on pin number pin number 4 over here on the back side of the switch. So we cut pin 7 and pin 8 to eliminate this circuit here for the tape head and the special input, so that they are going directly into the volume control over here, going right into here, and going through the low pass and stereo mono loudness and so forth, and into the volume. So basically, when we look at the unit itself, I just removed the red and the blue wire, which went to pin 7 and pin 8. Left pin 6, this is the one for the phono, the magnetic cartridge. I just disconnected these two. I could cut them off over here, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to leave them here just so that I know where they go if it ever has to be reversed, which it never will, but it's not going to hurt anything. Those are disconnected, taped up so they won't short against anything. And then here's my bypass. I took the phono wire coming right off of the inputs for the left and the right channel, and went right into the respective input on the preamp, and then the output from the preamp went back to the switch where I disconnected it from. So we've got auxiliary input, phono input, auxiliary input, auxiliary input, auxiliary input. 5 line level inputs, 1 phono. And now I've made this unit much more desirable for modern hi-fi use. Okay, I think that about does it for this one. I'm going to put this one back together as this one is complete. Before I go, I'm just taking another look at those other caps have never been replaced. The person that sold this said it was a fully restored unit, but he kind of lied. This balance control is kind of a bit flaky on here, but those are going to be impossible to find. At least it's not dirty. It's just at the one extreme it cuts in and out a bit, but that's okay. I think that one could be lived with. But great little preamp. They were one of the best, if not the best sounding of the era when compared to other preamps. The only one I think would be a little more desirable would be the vacuum tube. Great sounding preamp. Doesn't add anything to the sound. From all the reports I've read, this is the one to get if you're looking for one. If you find one of these are a very nice sounding unit, and I'm going to be trying this out. I'm going to hook this up to my big Crest amplifier and see how it sounds. Alright, I've just set this Dynaco preamp up on my system. I'm going to try it with my CD player. I've only hooked up the CD input. I haven't hooked anything else up to this unit, but after listening to this, I may just have to find one of these for myself. Anyway, I've just hooked up the CD player to it. I've been listening to it. I tell you, it sounds amazing. Got it into my B&W 580 DM580s, being driven by that monster down on the bottom shelf. You guys can't really see it. It just looks like a black box. It's a Crest VS900, 900 watts per power. I'm going to play a CD on this one. I'm going to play disc number 180, which is a royalty-free disc that I can play. Whoops, let me just turn this thing off. Shuffle, so I can play disc number 180. Play. There we go. Okay, we're going to play disc 180. I got my two CD players here. They're synced with each other, right? So this one's full. It's got 200 discs in it. This one got about 175 discs, I think, in this one. So when this thing reads up, holy crap! I wasn't ready for it to be quite that loud. Even with the loudness off, everything set to flat. Turn the volume down a bit so that it's not going to overload the microphone quite as much as I did have it at an ear-splitting level before, and I found that everything came out all distorted. So let's try it again. Maybe I'll turn the microphone gain down a bit.
Like I said, about does it for this one. Hope you enjoyed the mods to the Dynaco PAT4A Preamp. It sounds fantastic on this high power amplifier. One of the best sounding preamps I've heard. Thanks for watching.